What's up everyone, Maki here with another topic video. Apparently the Dolphin emulator is so good it can buy WiiWare from the Wii Shop Channel now. Actually, with a real credit card, with real money from Nintendo, which is kind of hilarious, and we'll talk about why, but at the same time, it is also super, super awesome. So if you don't know what the Dolphin emulator is, basically it is an emulator for the Gamecube and Wii. Originally it started off as a Gamecube emulator, and then the Wii ended up being so close that just kind of integrated it, and now it actually is probably one of the best emulators out there, if not the best. As in, it's had so much time put into it and so much effort put into like the entire emulation of it that it's actually quite impressive. Now, what they're actually doing here is they're emulating not only the Wii, like as in Wii games, but they're actually emulating the OS itself at this point. It's actually using their HLE, I think is what they're calling it, and basically it is the Wii kind of software itself. It's kind of like, how Windows has a thing, or it's kind of like emulating DOS, except this is much more complicated and is a console. They're sort of reverse engineering and finding a way to actually interpret the data. Now, in order to do this, you do need an actual NAND from a Wii. It's not like it's one of those things where it's just like, oh yeah, we just made Wii consoles and everything like that. Like originally when I saw it, I'm like, how does that work? Because all of WiiWare purchases and the way the online system works on the Nintendo Wii is it sort of ties your account ID thing with your console and everything like that. Like each console has a unique ID, and it's a stupid system. But regardless, they're not like creating new IDs or anything like that. It's not like spoofing or something like that. It is actually legitimately just using a console and just using the actual normal console ID and emulating the OS so that it can just read that data like it normally would on a normal Wii. And it's actually quite incredible for a number of reasons. Now, how it works is basically they have, once again, they're emulating the OS, and you basically load up Dolphin. You're able to do all this whole type of setup. It's not like a simple, I start it up and go to the Wii Shop Channel. It's not like plugging in a Wii and instantly you have access to the shop. It's a little bit more complicated than that, and therefore, I haven't actually tried it yet. However, I did extract my NAND from, I think it's called NAND, from my Wii console. And so if I go on there, it's actually going to show my Nintendo console, like the games that I bought on my Nintendo Wii, on the actual thing itself, like on the shop channel, because it thinks that it's that Wii, which is actually kind of really, really cool. And it's sort of the benefit to having a simple system. And obviously, if it was another kind of online console that had, let's say it was an Xbox or something like that, it would have like our online accounts and everything like that. So it's not like it's the super simple system, but it's actually, good enough that it actually says, hey, this is an actual Wii that exists. Okay, cool. Now, in order to get this working, you need a lot of type of stuff, and there's an entire setup guide. I'll go ahead and link the kind of article and everything below, and so you can end up checking it out on the Dolphin emulation site and everything like that. It is actually a really, really cool and really, really awesome, and this update also came with a bunch of different stuff. There's actually a video on there that explains a lot of the other stuff that they ended up implementing, such as like SD cards and everything like that are working just like they were on the Wii, and it's ultimately, they're just making the emulator exactly like a Wii. And this kind of brings up a weird question, because now we're actually able to buy games legally on an emulator. Now, there's already ways to kind of, quote-unquote, legally emulate games. You're able to kind of, like, rip the disc and play it through all this other type of stuff. Like, for the Wii, for example, like for my Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles playthrough, which I am using Dolphin and VBAM for the Game Boy aspect of it, I actually have that running, and I do have a whole Let's Play series on it, and the way I ended up getting that working is I plugged in my Wii and got it all hooked up in this really hacky fashion. I bought some weird hookup thing to HDMI from China or something like that. I don't even know where it's from. It looks super janky. But regardless, I ended up using a homebrew application they have available on the emulation site, or rather they have a guide to it that'll link you to a source forge page or whatever. And then I was able to actually extract the NAND and the game disc, basically the game data, and I was able to emulate through that. And that is supposedly how you're able to legally, do it legally. And so I'm like, all right, cool. And that's how I ended up doing it. However, Nintendo has never actually said that this is legal, and they've always kind of had some weird sort of ideas of what is allowed and what isn't. And if you actually mention, emulation to them and all of their interviews they've ever had, every single person from Nintendo is all like, yeah, we don't like it. It's bad. It's just piracy. And so, like, even if you are doing this sort of weird kind of, I guess, legal way that everyone thinks is legal, but at the same time isn't actually endorsed, therefore it's technically not legal, you're still not really doing things legally. But this is actually 100% legal, because it's just like buying from a Wii. It's a legal purchase. You can actually go on your Wii afterwards and just download it. And there's actually no kind of purpose to this whatsoever. It's not like you couldn't just plug in your Wii and then buy it on your Wii and then extract it from your Wii onto your Dolphin emulator. That is definitely something that you can do, and that's what people have been doing. And so there's actually no practical reason. It's actually really, really cool how passionate these people are about just trying to experiment with emulators and getting all this types of stuff to work. It's really, really cool as well. Not only really, really cool for emulation, but it's also hilarious for the fact that, Nintendo is so against emulation. And this kind of brings up a really, really good question that I've kind of been asking for a really, really long time. And this show shows that it is possible. And I don't understand why companies aren't already doing this. And what I'm talking about is, why are companies not just making their own emulators and selling products as downloadable titles? They already sort of do this with the sort of virtual console. Now, Nintendo probably doesn't do it because they like sort of doing the whole, oh, well, you bought a new console, now you have to rebuy all your virtual console games. Haha, we are a company that's totally friendly to everyone else. Sorry, I'm not a big Nintendo fan, but regardless, they already kind of do that sort of thing. And I don't understand why they don't just make an emulator, because even though Dolphin is so far ahead and it's had so many contributors, when you put money in the line and you actually have people that are doing this, full-time jobs and everything like that, you're going to have people that are going to be able to do a lot of things that you wouldn't expect happen. And obviously, Dolphin is a very standalone case. We're probably not going to see this with any other emulator ever in the history of emulators as far as I'm concerned, or until companies end up doing this sort of thing. But it would be a very profitable thing, especially for Nintendo. Imagine if Nintendo sold an official emulator and they sold official ROMs and you were able to just play them on their thing. They could even implement a DRM and everything like that. And I know people hate DRM, but I don't understand why companies haven't already jumped on this. But regardless, huge props to the people who have been working on Dolphin. Every single person has contributed onto it, and it is open source. You can just download it and just go to the source code. You can actually screw around. It's actually one of the most interesting emulators to look at because it's just, there's been so much work and polish put into it, and it's all about getting accuracy on the console. It's not about just playing games. It's about actually emulating the console, and this is why this is actually such a big deal. They've made it so that their online service and all this other types of functions and everything like that, especially with the other update, like SD cards working and all that stuff, it is basically an update to the OS emulation. It's actually incredible. It's absolutely mind-boggling how far they've actually gotten. And we've gotten to a point where it's just like emulating DOS, except we're emulating a console, not DOS. DOS is fairly simple to emulate because it's a PC architecture. It is one of those things where it's like, all right, well, we just need to convert this sort of variable to this variable sort of thing. And I know it's more complicated than that. Chill. But regardless, it's changing something that was designed for very specific hardware and changing it so that we can interpret it on any hardware, which is absolutely incredible in so many ways. And I really do think that companies should look at this and be like, you know what? People are actually able to buy on emulators. Why aren't we doing this? And they can end up making an emulator that actually sells products. It just makes so much sense to me, and I don't understand why they're not doing it. But regardless, it's just really, really cool. And if you don't know anything about Dolphin, you can go ahead and check out my playthrough of Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, which is a Let's Play and everything like that. It's actually fairly interesting if you're interested in that game as well. Basically, I'm using Dolphin and VBAM to actually emulate that, and that's how I'm doing my entire playthrough. And it's actually better than it was on the GameCube. There's a few graphical glitches here and there, and I'm playing it in 4:3, but there is a widescreen hack if you want to do it. And this is one of the benefits to emulating as well. You're able to run it at high resolution. You're able to add anti-aliasing, although I left that off. I just use the GameCube's normal anti-aliasing that it always did, which makes the game look a little bit natural, I guess. It has some weird graphical glitches with overlays and stuff like that. So the more things you actually stack on that's not meant for the GameCube, the more it's going to look a little bit strange. But regardless, it looks exactly like it did on the GameCube, except it's higher resolution, it's clear, the textures look better. It's just, that's actually super, super cool. And I think that companies should actually go into that. It'd be so much easier than having to port all these different games, although ports are definitely better. I think Microsoft has definitely seen the whole PC market because, well, they make Windows, and they've been sort of off and on the whole PC market for quite a while. And they're finally doing this whole Xbox Play Anywhere, which is definitely better because it's actual PC ports. But I still think every company should be like, hey, since they're trying so hard to compete with PC, just make a freaking emulator. You can make money on PC. And then there you go. Emulating, let's say they made an emulator for PS4 or something like that, or made an easy port system. That's how you capture that market. Don't try and make developers have to make all these different versions and then you don't profit from it. Make it something that could be develop it for PS4, and then obviously you could use our easy porting feature, and then you can end up playing it. Oh yeah, this cutscene's going to be really, really stretched out. I forgot about that. Sorry. This is one of the problems with playing it with a widescreen hack. Anyways, yeah, it's just port it to PS4, and then you'll be able to port it to PC easy. Why aren't companies doing this? It makes so much sense to me, but maybe it's more complicated than I think it is, and maybe that's just kind of one of the factors. But I think that companies are just not all that bright when it comes to actually figuring this type of stuff out. They're not one of those types of things where it's like, oh yeah, well, we're going to do this because it would actually be really, really cool and all this stuff. It's just, they don't care, I think is the fact. And I think they could have actually making a huge market. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Michael with a topic video talking about how Dolphin can now buy WiiWare titles. And I should mention, by the way, not everything's going to work if you end up buying it off the shop, because not everything's going to be compatible. It is an emulator. It has bugs. So there you go. So that's a thing. So watch out for that. But at the same time, it's actually really, really freaking cool. Game in the background has been Sonic Heroes. I am playing the PC version. I'm not emulating it or anything like that. Although I do have it on the Gamecube if I wanted to actually extract that, but I'm not going to because I don't think it runs well on Dolphin. I tried it a long time ago and it had like a bunch of glitches, so it wasn't really worth trying out. But yeah, I bought this one off of eBay from some dude and it was just a disc in a box. I was very upset because this freaking image had a freaking picture on it. Like it had a picture of the freaking case. And I'm like, all right, that's fine. I'm sure he stole that case image from someone else. That's what he did. But regardless, I have the game. Yeah, so basically I'm also using a widescreen hack, so there's been some visual glitches and stuff like that. And this is one thing that's actually really surprising about Dolphin is, you know, old PC ports like Sonic Heroes, you know, while it runs great and everything like that still today, it's actually a very good port for back in the day. It has some graphical glitches and stuff like that because it's running on modern hardware it wasn't expected to. And Dolphin runs games almost flawlessly. And it actually looks, you know, probably better than an old kind of PC port would, because a lot of old PC ports have a lot of problems. And so it's actually really, really interesting kind of look at it from that perspective. Obviously, not all of them are going to be that way, but whatever. My game is starting to stutter now. I don't know why, but my OBS is screwing with this game like crazy. So I'm going to go ahead and end this video here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like I said, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You can also check out my other types of videos, such as my Impressions Reviews series. My last one that I did was for Senran Kagura Estival Versus, which is a really, really fun hack and slash 3D action game. And it's got a lot of fan service, so I kind of warn you about that one, but it is a really, really fun game, so you should end up checking that out. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to go and probably play some more Sonic Heroes without this whole freaking, like, recording stuff working, because I'm getting really annoyed with stuttering. But regardless, I haven't played this game in a while, and I'm actually having a lot of fun. Anyways, see you guys in the next video.